As a passive investor, first of all, never put too much money into one deal. Find out what the track record is of the sponsor, of the
Yep.
operator in that specific thing. Have they done this specific thing before in this specific market? And that's step number one. What have they done successfully?
Welcome, Kathy. I am super excited to have you on this interview today, as I know that a lot of people out there will love to hear about your experiences. But more than that, I know there's something happening right now. You guys launched a Scaling Smart book, which helps a lot of people to how to work on their business and not in their business. Can you share a little bit about what is the concept of the book?
Yeah. Oh, actually, Bigger Pockets reached out to us and they wanted us to write a book initially about how to get along with your spouse, whether you're investing together or building a business together. And we actually spoke at Bigger Pockets on that topic. But then they sent out a survey, and the topic that people wanted more, they were interested in that, and that will probably be our next book. But people were more interested in how to scale. So they said, Bigger Pockets said, "Hey, can you write that book?" And we said, "Absolutely." We've been in business for, well, each of us have been entrepreneurs for almost 40 years now, and in business together for over 20 years. So we were able, it was really fun. We actually somehow really enjoyed the process of writing a book together, which could have been like renovating a house together, could be very difficult with a spouse. But we weren't sure how this would go. But one of the things we did was each of us just took out sticky notes and wrote down those turning points in the last 20 years. What took us to that next level? How did we get on the Inc. 5,000 3 years in a row? How did I get the Goldman Sachs Award as most intriguing entrepreneur? What were the things that happened over the years that got us over that sort of hump? We would create success and then just sort of like it would dwindle, or we would hold steady. We didn't know how to grow. So when we put together all the ideas we had, we clumped them together. Some were the same, some were different, and that turned out to be the chapters. It was just those turning point moments over the past 20 years that is scaling smart.
A lot of people out there, they don't see themselves working with their significant other or spouse, and they struggle. And I have met a lot of couples that they were at the point they have to make the decision, either we stay married or we do business together.
Yeah.
What were the secrets? What it works with you and your spouse that create this magic and synchronicity in order to scale up?
It's the first chapter of our book, Scaling Smart. You take the book and read the book thinking this is going to show you how to make more money with less effort. That's what scaling is, right? Being able to grow, but with less expenses, less effort. And and then the first chapter isn't about that at all. It's about the why. And there'll be some people who are like, I want a business book. I don't want to, talk about what my values are and so forth. But I can't emphasize the importance of being so clear about what your North Star is. What is the ultimate destination for you? Because too often we forget what really matters. And we find ourselves leaving a 9 to 5 job for a 24/7, and we end up leaving a bad boss for a worse boss who is ourselves. And and life becomes harder as entrepreneurs if we don't know why we're doing it and why we originally did it in the first place, which for most people is to have control of your time and to have more freedom and to spend time with the people you love and to live your life, an incredible life. And instead of us controlling our business so that we can have those things, our business controls us and we lose those things, even to the point of losing what is most important, your relationship, your health, your relationship with your children. These are things that, while they come first on our list of values, they often come last in reality. So really getting clear on what matters most and how do I design a business that actually supports that? How do I how do I even have more of these things? So first chapter is, boy, you better be clear what is important to you, and then the rest will fall in line. If your spouse is important to you, why let business override that? Why let decisions come between you? Why not work together and make it fun? So I guess the best description I can say for a husband and wife, and let's face it, you are business partners, period. People say, we can't work together. Well, that's just not true because you share your finances. You are potentially raising children together. You run a household together. You invest together, whether you like it or not. So you are partners. And you better be good at that. You better learn how to be a good partner. So this doesn't come naturally. Rich and I have had business coaches, we've had relationship coaches, we've had therapy, we have done marriage retreats. We are constantly learning more about ourselves and about each other so that we can be great partners, because in the end, that's all that matters. And I can tell you now, turning 60 years old this year and almost 30 years together, it's worth it. Like, we are more in love than ever. We are happier than ever. We have better relationships with our kids than ever because of the work that we did.
I love that. I love that you're sharing that. I think that a lot of people forget how important it is to learn how to develop a lot of healthy relationship, whether it's with your spouse and your business partner and other type of partners. I think that sometimes we overlook that. And is there any specific habits or kind of dynamics that you have with your husband that make it very fun that you can share with people out there, right? Because I think that
Yeah.
a lot of people needs to start learning some of those little tricks that helps people get closer.
Yeah. I mean, a simple, excuse me, a simple thing is oftentimes on date night, it's hard enough to get a date night, especially when you're running a business and have children. So it takes effort, right? And when you carve that out for yourselves, nothing's going to work if you don't work together as a couple. And everything's going to get affected if you if you end up separated or in a divorce, or if your health is compromised from the way you've been living. So just a very simple thing is date night. But too often that becomes work night. And you start talking about finances and you start talking about business or things that you haven't really said to each other that needed to be said, and the date night's ruined. And then you don't want to do them anymore. We experienced that a lot. It was just like another business meeting or just a gripe session, and that is not going to be good for a relationship in the end. So the biggest transformation we discovered is weekly business meetings so that date nights can be fun and can be sexy and romantic. And there's absolutely no discussion of work or serious things. It's only romance. It's only telling each other what you love about each other, talking about good memories. We have games we play, relationship games, where you ask each other, questions about each other, and leave, because you can kind of forget that there's life outside of business when you're in it. And so the business meetings happen during the day, and those hard talks, looking at the finances, talking about, did this get done? Did this not get done? And, the to-do list that never ends, that is a business meeting and needs to be kept separate. Whereas date night needs to be sexy, or else you will lose, the relationship's not going to last. They'll find someone else who's sexier. You know what I'm saying? It's just the way it works, and we see it all the time. You've got to invest in the romance and act
Yes.
right.
Yeah, I think that in fact, like for me, I have a rule too with friends and family when they're investing with me, and it's a boundary, right? During
Mhm.
family events, it's not allowed to talk about investing
Yeah.
passively, to ask me those questions. If they want to talk about it, we will set up an official meeting, like if
Yes.
I was talking to a business partner, because at that time it's about the family as a whole, right? More
Yes.
than the investment that they did. And I that's one of the keys that has worked for me for my personal relationship and now for my romantic relationship too. It's establishing those boundaries, what it is and what is not during what time. So, um,
Right.
and talking about partnerships, I think that you mentioned something very unique about values. I think that a lot of people miss that part. And with your spouse, you have find someone that supports you that probably share those values with you. What other things beyond, like right now you're with your spouse, but when you're selecting partners to invest, I think that this is where most people struggle. Personally, this is a portion of my business that I was struggling. And then I learned a recipe on how do we pick our partners. So I know you have worked with investors in the past. What has been your recipe to pick a partner?
Well, that's the second chapter of Scaling Smart. The first, as I said, is what are your personal values, and everything should lead to that. And then next is what is your business value? What is your business about? Who are you serving? It's too easy to get distracted in business and see shiny objects and want to do those. I did it. I am so guilty of this. We at Real Wealth have been focused on helping investors buy 1 to 4 unit rental properties in the fastest growing US markets that also cash flow, but where there's growth. That's been our thing. And then guess what I syndicated? A wine village. Oh, I also syndicated a retreat center in Costa Rica. What did I know about these things? They've been challenging, very, very challenging because I got the shiny object syndrome. It sounded cool, but I didn't understand it completely. So really defining what is this business? What are we great at? How are we going to be the best at it? And vertically integrate instead of horizontal. In the book, we talk about the difference between Regis and WeWork. And these are just two companies that offer shared office space. That's it. WeWork, as we know, filed bankruptcy and has to restructure because they spent way too much money. They got into lots of horizontal businesses that had nothing to do with office space. They got into the food industry and living spaces and so forth, spent too much, grew too fast, and ended up in bankruptcy. Regis, on the other hand, also went through COVID. Offices have been challenged. But guess what? Regis is more profitable today than before the pandemic. Why? Because they just offer good shared office space. That's it. That's it. They stuck with what they know and they just became very good at it. So, really getting clear, what's my buy box? What is our company about? Who do we serve? And sticking with that. So, I don't know if that was a long-winded answer.
Yeah,
But
it does. It
yeah.
does, Kathy. And with that, I want to ask you this. Let's dig into that because I think that it happens to me. You see so many opportunities and you see it everywhere and you want to jump in each of them.
Yeah.
How do you keep yourself focused in the one thing that you're good at it, and how do you find it?
And that's so hard when you're a visionary. I am a visionary, and we're just idea people, and we're good at it, right? It's our ideas that created the company. It's our grit and our, passion for that idea. And then we somehow get to a point of hiring people and training people, and they start to like fulfill this vision and idea. And then all of a sudden, we have another idea. And then we take our team who's already good at doing the first idea, and we think that we can just bring them over into what is technically a whole new business that they have to learn and get better at, but they're already busy. This is the problem of an entrepreneur and a visionary, is what is called whiplash within a company, taking your hard workers who are bringing you to fulfillment of that business vision, and all of a sudden going, wait, but let's do this one too, and then why don't we try this? And then so bringing in, it's really important for a visionary to bring in the opposite, the person who's just good at doing the same thing. We're not good at that. Visionaries are terrible at just doing the same thing over and over again. And you just have to know that about yourself and bring in somebody else who is good at that and who loves doing operations and loves improving those operations and systems. And then let them be. This is kind of where we are with Real Wealth, where we have completely replaced ourselves, replaced me because I had the idea. I'm going to find teams across the country that can help our high net worth investors buy turnkey rentals nationwide. Great idea. We've helped lots of people become financially free because of this. But then I'm done. I've done my work. The company runs it. The people on the team run it now without me. So I've created financial freedom. Now I can go start another idea, but I have to build a new team, not the same team.
Yes.
And that's where people screw it up over and over again, is trying to use the same team for the new idea, burning out and crashing and burning, what we call basically the opposite of scaling, growing, where you're growing, but you're growing your expenses and your people that you need. And all that grows faster than the actual income. So you implode, you grow yourself broke.
Yes, yes, that's so true. And most entrepreneurs fail in understanding how working in on their business instead of in their business. And I think that they confuse a lot between organic growth and exponential growth in their finances for the different ideas. So you run multiple businesses. How do you separate your time and how much time do you spend in each of these businesses in order to ensure that things are running?
Yeah, it's a great question. Right now, I spend almost no time on real wealth, meaning the turnkey rental side, because it is so systematized. It is run by people who do things better than I do in terms of operations. The people who are scouting new markets, finding teams within those markets. These are detail people. So almost none, really. I show up for a 90-minute meeting once a week, an L10. We follow EOS, and we have very efficient meetings. As a result, we use a platform called 90.io, which is an ES system that keeps your meetings really on track. Make sure, whatever was supposed to be done is done. You check in with the to-dos of the week before. But quite honestly, I don't really even need to be on those meetings. They just say, if you want to come, but you don't need to be. So I guess 90 minutes would be the amount. On our syndication side, I have been definitely more involved in that, but we are working on replacing me in that as well, and we're really close. I've brought in an incredible integrator, basically a COO, who's better at it than me. And it takes a lot of humility to say that, to I would say visionaries have egos, right? That's kind of goes
Yes.
with the territory. So to find somebody better and to submit to them, that's the hardest part of letting go. You can either bring someone in who's better at it than you, so you don't even have to train them, they're really training you. Or if you're really excellent at something, then they can help you create the systems to replace yourself. So yeah, with the syndication business, I'm almost out of that too. So that next one is my coaching program and our Scaling Smart program. I'm now bringing on onboarding people again that are better at that than me, so that all I have to do is the stuff I like to do and am good at.
If I ask you, how does Kathy decide to jump into real estate, do syndication, and scale up later to different businesses? Who was that Kathy in the past that lead you to where you are today?
My former self, it was very optimistic, very much a risk taker, a little reckless, honestly. And we see this so often with entrepreneurs. Um, Stubborn. I thought I knew all the answers. I was bossy, told people what to do. And um, I would say in some ways, yeah, just kind of not your ideal boss. It wasn't until I was humbled. I took on some projects, like I said, that did not go well. And I didn't listen to my team. I bulldozed them, is the best way to say it. It's like, we're going to do this and it's going to work and trust me and let's go. And then I led us down a dark path, right? So for some visionaries, it does take a little humbling. We're seeing it today. We're seeing the exact thing today with so many syndicators who maybe just didn't slow down enough, got too greedy, got too cocky. It's like, okay, now I just bought a 100-unit apartment, or I succeeded in a $10 million deal. I'm just going to go ahead and do a $100 million deal.
Yeah.
That's the type of thing, is trying to grow too fast, trying to do things that you haven't done before, which is the entrepreneurial spirit, right? But
Yeah.
that's why 50% of businesses fail. That's why so many syndicators are struggling today, because of this, the dark side of the entrepreneurial spirit. So things get so beautiful when you can be in a harmonious relationship with your integrator, with your operations people, where they can hear your idea without freaking out, and you can submit to their feedback when they have concerns. It's the hardest thing to do. But one of the things that we put in the book is called a BOA. A BOA, it sounds scary, but you have to put your idea through a BOA. And that's a business, it's something my husband created. And when you buy the book, you get this, it's in there of what it is. And it's basically treating every idea like it's a new business and creating a business plan for it. It's just 12 questions. It's not like um, super painful. You don't have to, spend 6 months creating a business plan. You can do it in a day. But it's questions that we don't often ask ourselves when we have these new ideas. So it helps to humble that visionary by, sitting down and say, okay, we're going to go through these questions together to decide if this is really a good idea, if this is really going to take our company to where, to the mission, the vision that we have for it. Is it aligned with our values and purpose? And or not? Is it taking us off track? Is it going to cost more money, more resources, more time, and take us off from what we're good at? So the BOA, this is a game changer, because as you grow, you hire people who have great ideas, and suddenly there's more than you having these great ideas, and everybody's got a great idea. So these, business meetings can get derailed all the time by people, meaning well, but throwing the company, just throwing things off. So every idea has to go through this BOA before it's presented.
And you learn that humbling lesson of letting go, and one of the keys to your growth has been bringing your team and allowing them to do their best at what they're best at. And I
Yes.
think that takes some time and understanding of your own people, so I commend you for that, Kathy. I do.
Well, I
Now,
want to I want to share this one thing that's been a game changer for us. It's a technology called Wise Hire, WIZE Hire, and it helps you create your job description, but then it also has all people who apply take a personality test, and then it sort of whittles down to the top 20 or top 30 applicants based on the personality test for that specific job. And the job description is super clear, so that there's no question. It's like, we are looking for this. It's going to take, and that job description needs to show the good and the bad of the job.
yep.
Because if you're only showing the bonuses and so forth, then you might not get people who really understand the hours it's going to take, and the grit that it's going to take. So making sure that job description is so clear, that's really been a game changer for us. We've hired amazing people through that process.
I always ask myself is, how do you separate the paper people, like they look good on paper, from the performance people? Do you have any key or nuggets that you want to share about how you do that?
Yeah, I mean, just on this last hire, like I said, for our integrator for the syndication department, I had like 2,000 applicants. It was very overwhelming. But we put them through Wise Hire, and that really, brought it down to about 20 who had the right personality, because again, they had to take the personality test that would be for a manager, right? For
Mhm.
somebody who can manage other people, very, very different skill set. And then from there, I would say it really kind of brought, it was more like 100 that could work. So then I just had my assistant send them like 10 questions, and about half came back answering those. And then with that, and I mean within 24 hours, because I wanted to see someone who could take action. And then from there, it was like, okay, great. I'm going to give you a job, a deal that just came across my desk. Please underwrite it for me. And I knew it was kind of not a great deal. So some of the people that underwrote it were just sloppy. It was clear they didn't do their homework. And some were like, well, it was like fragmented. They sent their underwriting in like 4 or 5 emails, like, oh, this is crazy. It's going to drive me crazy. And then just one guy came back with probably a 7-page analysis. And this was within 24 hours. And it was this like clear winner. It was just so easy. So oftentimes giving them an assignment before you've hired them. Another way to do that is to hire them on a project-based kind of deal before you've actually hired them on something that you do know how to do to make sure you really understand that they understand. And then we never hire full time. It's always a 3-month test. Let's see how we work together personality wise. Are you a culture fit? And again, I will ask culture fit questions. Our company is really about uh, authenticity and honesty. And you can ask them hard questions during that interview to see if those things are real. And, you know, I'm just so happy to say we found someone who matched all of it.
It's so hard to find people that really want to ask the difficult questions, do
Mhm.
the detailed analysis, as you mentioned, especially in the world that we live in, and how real estate it's functioning these days more than ever. I think
Yeah.
that in the past decade, there was so much growth and inflation playing a
Yeah.
role on the prices that people just got cocky and start buying properties without really looking into it. And
Oh my gosh. Yeah. The
yes,
underwriting was just insane.
terrible. A lot of investors, passive investors, are losing money because they're investing with syndicators that don't understand what they're doing. And they go and they think that a deal is a good deal without understanding all the factors impacting this specific project. For passive investors out there, what is your advice on how they need to bet not only a deal, right? Because that I honestly I think that's the easy part. It's the other elements. What are those other elements of doing your research? But also, how do they bet a syndicator?
Yeah, too often people, it just comes back to we do business with people we know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of people who can be very likable and they become sort of overnight stars. It's so easy to be well known through YouTube or, through podcasts. And that's what happened to me. My podcast took off, my radio show in San Francisco took off. And within a couple of years, I had people calling from all over the world just wanting to throw money at me. And I wasn't ready. I didn't have the systems in place. I didn't have the experience. And I didn't even know that I didn't know what I didn't know. Right. But people, because they felt like they knew me from my podcast, they just wanted to throw. I'm not kidding. I had people
Yep.
from Australia saying, I'll send you a couple $1 million, just invest it. I'll just send it to you. I'm like, absolutely not. That's not how it works. So don't do that. Don't fall for celebrity status. It's easy to do. I'm not saying that a celebrity isn't necessarily good. I mean, let's look at Ken McElroy. He's a celebrity, but
Yep.
man, does he have a track record. If
Oh,
you don't know who
yes.
he is, he's a big apartment guy. So
Yep.
someone like Ken, he is a celebrity, and that's great. People know, like, and trust him, but he's got a track record to back it up, you know. Whereas, there's kind of some overnight celebrities that, like me in the past, that don't have the experience and, maybe did 1 or 2 good deals and
Yep.
then suddenly thought, it was just luck. It was the market that took them there.
Yes.
So as a passive investor, first of all, never put too much money into one deal.
Yes.
Put a very small percentage of your net worth into a deal, even with a Ken McElroy, even with a you or me, people who've been doing this
Yes.
time. Why? It's called diversification for a reason. I went to a doctor's event where I could not knock any sense into these doctors. They were putting $1 million into one deal. And this was at the peak when people were doing crazy deals. And I was like screaming. I was on stage going, please, this is your hard-earned money. Don't throw it away like this. Diversify, put 50,000 in,
Yep.
but also find out what the track record is of the sponsor, of the
Yep.
operator, in that specific thing. You know, have they done this specific thing before in this specific market? And that's step number one. You know, what have they done successfully? And ask for a track record. Ask for um, proof of how their past deals have done. And if they don't have any that have come full cycle, that's concerning. That doesn't mean you shouldn't invest. It just means it might be riskier.
Yep.
Ideally, if they have someone on the team who has been there, has been through cycles, if you've got somebody new who's done very well and they're very bright, that's great, but they just maybe don't know what they don't know. So having a senior team member is extremely helpful. Someone who has been there on the board or on the board of advisors is would be good as well. Uh,
Yes.
and then finally, if you are going to invest 50 or $100,000 into one deal, it's a small amount, but it's a lot. It still took a lot to get that, right? So why wouldn't you spend a few hundred or a few $1,000s underwriting it? You
Yeah.
know, having an advisor look at it. Why wouldn't you do that? There's underwriters everywhere. Just have them take a look at the deal or learn how to underwrite yourself. You know, it was just too easy to be like, oh, I trust this person. I'm going to give them some money without knowing a thing about the deal, without
Correct.
knowing even what your status is, when
Yep.
you're going to get paid back. Are you equity? Are you debt? Who gets paid first? You know, they were just throwing money without understanding the deal.
Yes, and I'm so glad you mentioned that because as I have gone through the same thing where I have investors that they call me, you have a deal, they don't even understand the deal and they want to give me the money. And
Yeah.
sometimes they have a big chunk of money, but this is a significant amount out of their net worth. And I'm like, you cannot invest this much in this
Yeah.
deal, right? And I
No,
have
I
to
don't let
reject.
people. Just
Yes.
don't. Yeah.
It's like, and I think that a lot of syndicators, although they try to get away with not having that fiduciary duty, but they don't understand what is their responsibility. They need to protect these investors' money as much as possible. And I
Yes.
think that's one key point. So when passive investors are doing their due diligence, that's one of the things you need to figure out not only the syndicator and their values, as you mentioned, Kathy, but also the entire team, operators. Because you and I know that investing with the wrong person can get you in trouble in many ways and lose amount of monies. But if there's someone strong enough that can move the needle and take control, you want to see that not only in the experience, but also in the paperwork. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so I
Yeah.
think that's a great advice, and you have done incredible well. You are managing the $100 million fund, and I think that you manage also a lot of bigger investors. What do you see, or what do you foresee investors looking at in today's market, in real estate market, in the industry? What do you foresee that they want to put their money on?
I think so many people have learned hard lessons. So right now, what I'm seeing is that investors want safety.
Yeah,
They want to know that there's a backup plan, that there's a lot of experience. Now, if you're a syndicator and you don't have a lot of experience, bring someone on your team who does. That's people just want to know that they're in good hands and they're going to be taken care of. They want very clear communication. They want to know the risk. So in our projects, we have de-risked it as much as possible. We have
yep,
we really have just honed in. We do residential, affordable housing, often new construction. And when you are in a time like today where are there's a lot of pain out there in the commercial real estate world, that's also opportunity. So builders have definitely, smaller builders have been hit hard. They may be willing to negotiate. So that's what we did. We found a builder in Oregon who gave up basically, but had already taken on all the big risk. They already done all the horizontal development. Roads are in, utilities are in, sewers in, and we're able to take over this project. This is kind of how we started in 2009 when builders were going under. So we would partner with them. We didn't want to just take what they worked so hard on. We wanted to still give them a piece of what they built with us taking over. Kind of, I guess, what you're seeing today with a lot of funds that have come in as equity partners, pref equity. So on this deal in Oregon, we decided to just give an option. We only have to pay $1 million option for the land. We don't even have to buy it, which would be, over $10 million. I don't have to raise that money. We just the million. And then we get access to the lots, which we got for half their value. And we get to build the home and sell the home and only pay for the land at this time of sale. So, just mitigating as much risk as possible. We're not taking on construction financing. We're raising enough money to just build the homes and sell them with no construction loan because there's risk there too. So it's those kinds of deals that people are looking for, just safety. I also tend to structure my syndications where the preferred return is high. In this case, it's 12% because that incentivizes us, the builder, to move quickly because we're paying such an enormous preferred return. The longer the project takes, the less we make in profit. So
Yep.
because we're giving so much to the investor. So it's a little bit unique. And then the profit split is smaller than what people are used to seeing. It's on our build to rent deal that we're doing in San Antonio. It's actually 12% pref and then 50-50 split. You're used to
Yep.
seeing kind of a lower pref and then an 80-20 split. But what we figure, no, we're going to give the money away at the beginning to make us work harder and faster.
Yes. Yeah. And it also, as you mentioned, you're adjusting based on what the market is asking for. And it's that certainty that the investor's money is protected.
Yeah.
So I love that balance too. I tend to play it on structuring deals the same way, right? Finding out what the market is, where the industry is. And I think you nail it in something very important is how do you structure the financing these days, right? With
Mhm.
inflation and interest rates being inevitable, it doesn't mean you stop making business. It's just you need to get more creative and more smart about
Yeah.
how you structure your financing in the deals. And also, I love the fact that you mentioned, like, how do you mitigate risks? One of the things I do in my syndications, no matter what, I play what they call the game of the trifecta, right? I came up with that term is how you convert from cash to property, from property to paper, and the otherwise is what you are sharing right now, right? The lease options, the land contracts, and how you play with that financing in order to control, at least not control, but not depend in the variables right now, especially during these years in politics, inflation. It's very critical. Now, Kathy has go through all of these life experiences. Kathy, what has been the hardest lessons you have learned in this journey as an entrepreneur?
Mm. I mean, the hardest lesson is getting so obsessed with business and money. I'm just gonna say it. It was like once I saw success and I could see the money rolling in, that became my target. And it's so easy to have that happen. I traveled a lot. I was way a lot away so much when my kids were young. I still tried to be there for the important things, but it's amazing that we're so close today, considering how much I was away. So if that's you, take the time, at least I would take each child on a camping trip, just the two of us, so that we could really connect when I was in town. And I would be so present when I was in town, but I was gone more than I was home. So, now I'm a grandma and I'm kind of making up for it. I'm with those grandkids all the time because I can be. So it just kind of comes back to what I said. Rich and I went through a really hard time because of that too. We got disconnected and almost separated. A lot of people don't realize that. And it took a lot of work to come back together because what happens in relationship is when you first meet, you're so in love and you have like this energy between you. You can almost see it and feel it. It's like a beam of light. And then over time, as things happen or there's things you didn't do what you said you'd do, or you told a white lie, or whatever, the things that happened, there was an argument, you said things you didn't mean to. Those are like pebbles in this flow that block it. And if that happens too much, then the flow it's not there anymore. And that's the point that we had gotten to. And when we talked about it, it's like thankfully we did whatever we could to remove those pebbles, to remove those rocks that blocked the flow. We did marriage counseling. We went to Burning Man. We like We
Good.
we went to tantra classes, and that sounds, like it's just about physical, touch, but it was about looking at each other in each other's eyes and being so connected. And I think for the first 3 sessions, all I did was cry. So, doing just remembering what matters and investing in that, that's all that matters. So the regret I have is that I got off track, but the joy I have is I got back on track.
It really touches your heart. It goes back to who you are authentically, with your partner, returning to love. I have a little heart that I have in a necklace that says that return to love as a main source, and about being grateful, about being joyful. Most women I work with, or I do business with, or we do things together, we have not only the desire to grow our business, but also to make an impact in the world. So what has been driving your heart from a charity, or, from a social movement, or your construction? How does that heart have impact the way you do business? And are you involved in any charities?
Well, yes, for sure. I mean, we feel like our business is a charity at Real Wealth, in the sense that we've been educating people for free for 20 years. We've talked about charging for it, but that's our passion. And I go to events and people say, "Oh, that education changed my life. It's why am where I am." So just intrinsically, our business is really focused on raising the financial intelligence of our members, such that they can live the lives that they really want to live. With that, we sat with our team probably 15 years ago to figure out how we could all work together for this similar vision, like what would really motivate everybody. And since we had so many young people, so many millennials, they wanted to have impact. So together we chose 4 charities and decided to give 10% of our profits to those charities. And it's on our website. You can see how many kids that we've helped, hundreds of kids that we've helped with surgeries, hundreds of families that we've helped give microloans to. So that in every quarter, as a company, we come together and show our team, like, look at the impact that we've had beyond just our clients' lives and the great testimonials. That's fun to talk about, but also those who are less fortunate and how many families we've helped. And it really, really motivates our team and our members. Our members know that they're a part of a company that's doing that. So yeah, we are very much about impact. I met someone probably around that time who was very clear about how much money their family needed to live on. And everything beyond that, they gave away, like tremendously, millions, because they're
Wow.
like, we can live on a few 100,000. We don't need all that money. And I was like blown away, because you don't hear that very often. And that really, that we brought that back to the company of like, wow, how do we do something like that?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. I think that the first person that challenged me is my romantic partner, because he had the idea that rich people, only live a lavish lifestyle.
Yeah.
And when I share with him the kind of things we do in our projects, and they're highly profitable, they're profitable for investors, but also have a social impact. How do we take the homeless out of the homeless system and the program? Not only host them, but how do we take them out of there? And we have made some kind of and programs and put it together with veterans too that need a new purpose. And that is what it's joyful for me, right? How do we
Mhm.
take our hearts and implement in what we do? And as you mentioned, we know that there are families out there that they donate their money, but also they need the money. So we have been spending some time with those charities that have been doing great on helping these families stay financially successful, right? As women investors, things that sometimes a lot of people overlook, it's how do you invest in the right way? So Kathy, has been a pleasure to have you in the channel today and the show. So I'm looking forward to keep connected with you. And for our audience, I hope that you catch her spark.